She tells you you're great with the kids, for once. That you look good today, surprisingly. That you actually helped around the house, finally. Each one of these compliments feels like praise. Each one, though, leaves a bruise. Because buried in every compliment is the same message: you're usually not good enough. You get the kids ready solo for an event. Hair brushed, clothes sorted, snacks packed, everything done. She looks you up and down and says, "You didn't completely mess that up. I'm impressed." And for a split second, you feel relief. Maybe you're not failing after all. But the second she walks away, the full sentence sinks in. Didn't completely mess it up. That wasn't a compliment. That was a reminder that the baseline expectation is failure. This is what backhanded compliments do within an abusive relationship. They disguise insults as kindness. They destabilize you while appearing generous. And in time, they teach you to distrust your own instincts, to second guess your competence, and to chase approval from someone you will never genuinely get it from. In today's episode of the Blueprint of Family Violence Against Men, we're exploring backhanded compliments within an abusive relationship. We'll break down what this tactic is, how it operates, why abusers use it, and specific ways it exploits male victims. We'll look at five distinct types of backhanded compliments, each with a different mechanic and impact. And we'll cover practical tools you can use to protect your clarity when you're on the receiving end. For those of you who are new here, this is Stand Again, a lived experience platform for male victims of family violence. Abuse is not limited to one gender, but this channel focuses on the male perspective because it is so often dismissed or misunderstood. If this comment helps you, please like and subscribe. And comment the words "stand again" in the chat. Those two words might just help a victim of family violence find theirs. A backhanded compliment is a covert abuse tactic that disguises an insult as praise. On the surface, it sounds positive, but embedded in the compliment is a dig at your competence or your character or your worth. The structure is always the same: a positive statement plus a qualifier. For example, "You look great" becomes "You look great for once." Or "You're good with the kids" becomes "You're surprisingly good with the kids." The qualifier is where the damage lives. It reframes the praise as an expectation to your usual inadequacy. The abuser delivers what sounds like affirmation, but the qualifier does three things simultaneously. First, it establishes that your baseline state is incompetence or failure. Second, it positions her as the authority who gets to assess whether you've measured up. Third, it creates confusion about whether you've just been praised or attacked. That confusion is the mechanism. Your brain struggles to reconcile the positive words with the negative subtext. You can't tell if you should feel good or hurt by what was just said. And that ambiguity keeps you off balance. She uses this tactic because it gives her control while maintaining complete deniability. She gets to undermine your confidence, erode your self trust, and keep you chasing for her approval, all while appearing kind, supportive, or even playful. If you call it out, she can fall back on, "I was just trying to be nice," or even, "You're being too sensitive." This puts the burden back on you. You either accept the insult disguised as praise, or you look like you're overreacting to kindness. She wins either way. Beyond deniability, backhanded compliments serve other functions. They allow her to express contempt without social consequence. I'll say that again. They allow her to express contempt without social consequence. They train you to link your worth to her assessment. They isolate you because when you try to explain the abuse to others, it sounds trivial, it sounds silly. She said I was good at something. How was that abuse? and they destabilize your reality over time. You begin to question your own reactions. Was that genuine kindness or was that quiet cruelty? You stop knowing the difference, and that confusion makes you dependent on her version of reality. Backhanded compliments create cognitive dissonance. Your brain is trying to solve a puzzle that has no solution. The words say one thing, the tone says another, and the subtext says a third. This isn't just hurt feelings, it's genuine neurological confusion that keeps you easier to control and less likely to challenge her behavior. For male victims, backhanded compliments exploit a specific vulnerability. Men often separate tasks from relationships in their mind. There's task time, such as getting the kids ready, fixing something, handling logistics. And then there's relationship time, like connection, conversation, intimacy. These two things, task time and relationship time, feel like different domains. You handle task time well, and that contributes to the household running smoothly. Separate from that, you work on relationship time through emotional presence, quality time, shared experiences. The two are not the same thing. Backhanded compliments collapse that separation. When she says, "You're surprisingly good with the kids," she's not commenting on whether you handled task time well. She's making your performance during task time the measure of your worth during relationship time. You thought you were handling logistics. She's telling you that how you perform at logistics determines whether you're adequate as a partner, as a father, as a man. This creates confusion because the two domains were not connected in your mind. You approach task time practically, assess what needs doing, do it, move on. But now, task time has become a test of your value in relationship time. Men tend to view their contributions during task time as serving shared goals. You're both trying to run the household, raise kids, maintain a life together. Your ability to handle things is meant to support what you're building together. Backhanded compliments poison this by reframing your contribution as perpetually inadequate. The kids got ready, task time is complete, but the praise comes with surprisingly or for once. The message is clear. Your contribution during task time did not strengthen the partnership. It barely met the minimum, and only by accident. The collaborative framework collapses. You're no longer working towards shared goals. You're performing for someone who's decided your competence is suspect by default. Let's now take a quick look at 5 distinct types of backhanded compliments. Each operates slightly differently, but they all share the same goal, which is to destabilize you while maintaining plausible deniability. The first type is undermining praise. Undermining praise operates by framing your competence as an anomaly. She acknowledges that you did something well, but embeds the acknowledgement in language that positions success as shocking, rare, or even out of character. The dig lives in the qualifier. Words like actually, or surprisingly, or even for once. These words establish that your baseline state is incompetence, and any moment of capability is a deviation from that norm. The praise and the insult target the same domain. She's commenting on your parenting and also taking a dig about your parenting. She's commenting on your appearance and also taking a dig about your appearance. She might say, "You actually handled bedtime really well tonight," where actually frames competent pairing as unexpected. Or she might say, "That shirt looks good on you for once," where the for once suggests you normally look terrible. Or even, "You were surprisingly helpful with the packing," where surprisingly positions helpfulness as out of character. Your brain processes the positive words first. "You're actually good with the kids" lands before the actually registers fully. By the time you do notice a qualifier, you've already felt the dopamine hit of praise. This creates confusion because the emotional response and the cognitive assessment do not match. You felt good for a moment, then also felt bad. And now you're questioning which reaction was correct. That confusion is protective for her because it keeps you from trusting your gut when something feels wrong. Type 2 is elevated comparison. Elevated comparison operates through a form of triangulation. She praises you by comparing you to someone else, like her ex or other men or fathers who just don't bother. The compliment requires a third party to function. Your worth is established through contrast, which means it can flip the moment you fail to maintain superiority over the comparison target. The barb lives in the comparison itself because it tells you that your value is relative, conditional, and always under assessment. You're being measured against a standard you did not set and you cannot control. She might say, "You are so much more patient than my ex. He never listened." It sounds affirming. You're the one who finally gets it right. But later, when you're frustrated or need space, she says, "You're being just like him now. I thought you were different." The initial compliment has now become a weapon. Or she says, "At least you're not like other men. You actually help." Then, when you don't anticipate her needs, you'll hear, "I guess you are like them after all." The praise sets the standard, and the moment you slip, you're reclassified into the group she originally evaluated you above. This type creates pressure that builds quietly. The initial comparison feels flattering. You're the one she finally appreciates. But you're not being valued for who you are. You're being valued for who you are not. And the moment you fail to maintain that contrast, the comparison flips. The same standard she used to elevate you becomes a standard she uses to diminish you. You weren't being seen, you were being measured against a benchmark that shifts whenever she needs it to. Next is conditional compliment. A conditional compliment operates by attaching praise to an unrelated behavioral condition. She compliments you on one thing, but makes that compliment contingent on your behavior in a completely different domain. For example, she might praise you for your attractiveness, but only when you suppress your emotion. Or she might praise your capability as a partner, but only when you're calm. The barb lives in that other condition, which tells you that your worth in area A is dependent on your compliance in area B. This trains you to link your value to her shifting standards across multiple domains simultaneously. She might say, "You're sexy when you're not whining about work," where physical desirability is conditional on not discussing your job stresses, implying that having professional struggles makes you unattractive. Or, "You're so much more fun when you're not obsessing over your hobbies," where your entertainment value depends on abandoning your interests, suggesting that doing things you enjoy makes you boring. Or even, "You're actually a decent partner when you stop questioning everything I do," where your adequacy as a partner is tied to not raising concerns about her behavior, framing accountability as making you difficult. The reason this type works is that the domains feel unrelated in your mind. Your attractiveness and your emotional expression are separate things. Your lovability and your willingness to raise concerns are separate things, but she's linking them. This means you can never isolate feedback. In the future, if she says that you are not attractive, you may also hear that you are too emotional. If she says that you are no longer fun, you may also feel like you are obsessing over your hobbies too much. The conditional structure multiplies the impact because one criticism now attacks two areas of your identity simultaneously. You can't address the complaint without also accepting the hidden premise about your character. Type 4 can sometimes be seen as just straight contempt or mocking, but I'm going to isolate it here in this topic because I want you to see how the mechanism works within a compliment. So, type 4 is the mocking compliment. The mocking compliment operates by delivering contempt through humor. She acknowledges something that you did, but frames it up through mockery or exaggeration or even theatrical sarcasm. Your effort is treated as comedy, your competence as surprising enough to warrant a performance. The dig lives in the tone, the theatrical delivery, which positions you as the punchline rather than the person being genuinely praised. So you might hear, for example, "Wow, did someone finally learn how to do the laundry?" Which treats basic competence as shocking and frames you as incompetent by default. Or, "Look at you, Mr. Domestic," which mocks your participation in household tasks through a diminutive nickname. Or even, "Did you just cook something edible? Alert the media," which turns a successful meal into an event worthy of ridicule. "Well done, Einstein, you managed to lock the door," where the sarcastic nickname belittles a simple action. "You're so cute when you try to be organized," which infantilizes your efforts. Or even, "Oh, look who's pretending to be a grown up today," which frames your competence as role play rather than reality. The tone is what makes this hard to confront. She can deliver it with a laugh or a theatrical clap or a sing song voice that frames the whole interaction as playful. If you react, you're accused of being too sensitive or unable to take a joke. But the laughter is not shared, it's directed at you. In time, you stop doing things that might invite those comments. You avoid sharing wins because you don't want them to be turned into punchlines. The mockery erodes your willingness to be visible in your own life. The last type of backhanded compliment I'm going to talk about today is a performed public compliment, which is very similar to the private and public personas you might see. The performed public compliment operates through an audience dependent praise. She delivers glowing compliments about you in front of others, often excessive and disconnected from private reality. In public, she talks about you like you're the perfect partner, the capable father, the supportive man. Behind closed doors, she may undermine you, mock you, or ignore you entirely. The dig lives in the gap between the public praise and the private contempt. The compliment requires an audience to function strategically. She might say in public, "He's such a great dad, I'm so lucky," after calling you an incompetent father at home. Or, "He does everything for this family, would be lost without him," after withholding affection or support privately. "He's so thoughtful, always thinking of others," after belittling your needs behind closed doors. This type creates a profound sense of invisibility. People believe the public story, which makes your private reality sound implausible when you try to speak about it. She's always talking about how amazing you are. You must be misreading things. The public praise also traps you in her narrative. If you contradict it publicly, you're not just disagreeing with her, you're contradicting a story that everyone has already accepted as true. The performed compliment isolates you while protecting her image. She gets to appear loving and appreciative while treating you with contempt in private, and the public performance makes it nearly impossible for you to be believed. Let's take a look at some of the tools you can think about using when faced with backhanded compliments. These tools are not about fixing her behavior, they're about protecting your clarity and refusing to internalize her assessments of you. They're designed for someone still in the abusive relationship, not someone trying to repair a healthy one. The first tool is recognition. Separate the compliment from the barb. When you hear a backhanded compliment, break it down into its components. It's the reason why we went through that whole episode just then. When you hear things like, you're surprisingly good with the kids, which contains those two parts, a compliment, good with the kids, and the qualifier, surprisingly, separate those helps you to see the tactic clearly. You can acknowledge internally that you handled the task well without accepting her framing that competence is unusual for you. The goal here is to stop absorbing the qualifier slash the barb from landing emotionally. You're not dismissing your own ability, you're dismissing her assessment of it. The next is Grey Rock, and I'll throw a card up to link to my video on this technique. When she delivers a backhanded compliment, remove emotion from your response. She's fishing for defensiveness, hurt, confusion, or even grateful compliance. Instead, give her nothing. Respond with minimal engagement. Okay, thanks. Noted. Keep your tone flat and your response brief. This is the grey rock technique. You become boring, uninteresting, not worth the effort. She does not get the reaction she's looking for, which means the tactic starts to lose its effectiveness. You're not engaging with the subtext, you're acknowledging the surface and moving on. The third is opt for non committal responses, which signal doubt without confrontation. If you call out the qualifier directly, for example, if you said, "What do you mean, surprisingly?" This invites gaslighting and escalation of abuse. "I was being nice, you're too insensitive." That's a trap. Instead, use non committal responses that signal doubt without direct confrontation. So, for example, you might respond with maybe, or sometimes, or or even if you want to be a little confrontational, "I don't know about that." These responses refuse her frame without starting a fight. You're not agreeing that you're usually incompetent, you're also not arguing about it. You're creating space between her assessment and your reality without giving her ammunition to weaponize your response. Everybody's situation is unique. These tools may not be safe or appropriate for your circumstances, so use your judgment. The goal here is internal clarity, not confrontation with your abuser. Backhanded compliments are designed to make you doubt yourself while appearing harmless. They teach you to distrust positive feedback entirely because you're always listening for that little sting. That's the lasting damage from this type of thing. Even when someone genuinely praises you, you're waiting for the little qualifier that never actually comes because you've been trained to hear insults within compliments. And that training doesn't stop when the abuse does. Once you can see backhanded compliments clearly, they lose some of their power. You stop internalizing her assessment. You stop chasing approval from someone who will never genuinely give it. And you start trusting your own perceptions again. You're not imagining it. You're not too sensitive. And you're not alone. The moment you stop needing her validation is the moment you start reclaiming yourself. This is Stand Again, lived experience platform for male survivors of family violence. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Your voice might just help another man find his. If you're looking for one on one support, you can book coaching with a member of the Stand Again team. Simply visit standagain.com.au, where you will also find grounded information on surviving and recovering from family violence as a man. As always, remember that no matter how many times you've been knocked down, you can stand again.